Give us your sense of how realistic it is that they could actually get a deal within NAFTA within the next week.
Well, I think if everybody would have to do with that decision, it would go ahead and it would be a great solution. But unfortunately, Senor Trump wants to please his voters and his audience. And he's been very stubborn on NAFTA, very stubborn on the wall, and very stubborn with the relationship with Mexico.
So where are there areas from Mexico's point of view that would make sense to compromise? People seem to agree that NAFTA could be modernized. That's not a bad thing in and of itself. Where are the things that Mexico would say, you know, that would work for both of us?
I think it would need to be modernized. One issue is salaries and wages, and I think Mexico should improve there. Should come up with some sort of a professional salary related to export or something like that. And that will please this part of the negotiation. The other one is on the U.S. side. I think U.S. automobile corporations are more than willing not only to sustain NAFTA, but to improve it, because that's the only way they became competitive, by being NAFTA corporations. And that's what they need to be able to work with Canada, United States, and Mexico. And everybody will have its part of the deal, and everybody will be winning through that.
To your point on wages, the U.S. right now wants half of the cars made within NAFTA to come from workers who earn at least $16 an hour. Would that work for Mexico?
Well, something like that. I don't have the exact figures, but it would. Let's not forget that almost 60% of the automobile is imported parts from United States. So it's providing jobs and labor to United States, the same automobile produced in Mexico. So it's a win-win situation.
Right now, there seems to be a drive to get any deal done, a deal in principle. Is any deal better than no deal at this point?
Not for Mexico. For Mexico, if we don't get a good deal and an improvement, Mexico will just be happy with withdrawing. We're already working on Plan B, which is meeting with China and looking after that huge market. Also coming down to Argentina, to Brazil, to buy our corn that we buy here from the United States. That would affect millions of farmers in the United States if we are not buying grain from the United States and instead buying it from Brazil. So there are options. So Mexico is not weak on this negotiation. We have leverage, and this should be understood on the U.S. side, which, by the way, everybody understands how this can be solved, except Senor Trump. He's too stubborn. He just wants to win. He wants all the marbles for himself and nothing for the rest.
Well, Senor Trump, we call him the president, President Trump, has made it a point of, in other situations, combining trade with national security issues. In China, we're seeing that. Right today, we're seeing that. When it comes to NAFTA and Mexico, I think Mexico's been fairly careful not to say, you know, there are national security issues that go both ways. We're helping you a lot down on the southern border. I haven't heard them explicitly say that could be put on the table. Is it possible at some point, if we push Mexico hard enough, they'll say, okay, fine, we're not going to cooperate with you as much?
Yeah, there are those two ingredients. One is security, safety of this nation. We exercise with the Army and with the Marines every year in the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific, so we work very closely together. That is something that the United States and Trump should be very careful about, security. And number two, it's also the case of investment. Global U.S. corporations do make a lot of profits in Mexico and China, everywhere. So for United States, the real business is not trading, is not exchanging. It is having open markets where they can come in, sell, get revenue, and get strong profits out of it. And finally, the drug issue, the war on drugs. It's also, the consumption is here in the United States. Mexico is just the transit place. And so Mexico could then say, okay, if we don't have a deal, I'm going to just let the drugs go by and get into the United States. And there's no wall to refrain that, because it's U.S. consumers a huge amount of drug. And with that money, arms and ammunition come down to Mexico, and the killings in Mexico is because of that. And finally, the real headquarters of cartels are right here in the United States. It's not Mexicans. It's U.S. cartels that use Mexican cartels to import the drug.
So finally, not only were you an executive of Coca-Cola and president of Mexico, and you're an author, but you also are a new awardee. You've gotten an award from the Webbies. What is that about? You're an internet star now, Mr. President.
Well, that's about that video where I launched my campaign for President of the United States, which was very successful, very funny, and it's Super Deluxe, which came out with this video. I, of course, contributed with my presence there, and that's the award we're getting tonight.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on that. And talking about presidential elections, July 1st coming up, how much of López Obrador's and Morena's surge is because of President Trump's, and do you expect him to win?
Yeah, it's two visions, two futures being discussed for Mexico. One is populism, demagoguery, false prophets, which is López Obrador, and the other one is keep building the successful Mexico that we already have and can do much better than today. So I have there, we have two great candidates on that side, and López Obrador represents the far left, represents the agreement of Rio and Sao Paulo.
But he's the front runner.
He's front runner today, but that doesn't make him president yet.
But, Mr. President, what is the chance that, in fact, Mr. Obrador is actually more like Lula than he is like Chavez? Because people compare him to Chavez, but we thought, a lot of people up here at least thought that Lula would be very, very leftist, and he turned out to be very good for Brazil.
It depends on him. Depends on López Obrador. But up to now, he has not shown the attributes that Lula showed. That is strong leadership, that looking for the better of the country, and not for populism and demagoguery.